At 15, I was forced out in a storm because of a lie my sister told. My mom shouted, "Get out of my house." I didn't fight it, I just walked away. 20 minutes later, she made fun of it in a text, unaware Dad was reading it on the living room TV. Imagine being 15 years old, standing in a raging thunderstorm, completely alone, your world just shattered. My own mother had just screamed at me to get out, all because of a twisted lie my sister told. But what really broke me? The text message I got minutes later, from my mom herself, accidentally revealing they were both laughing at my distress. Can you even comprehend that kind of betrayal? It was just an ordinary October evening. Rain was drumming against my bedroom window, thunder rumbling in the distance. I was 15, cross-legged on my bed, battling algebra homework, totally oblivious. My whole life was about to explode. I remember hearing Madison, my younger sister, just 13 at the time, running down the hall. Even then, she was a master manipulator. While I was volunteering at the animal shelter, getting good grades, she was cultivating relationships, always figuring out what people could do for her. My mom, Ruth, always went easier on Madison. She knew exactly which buttons to push, which tears to cry, which stories to spin. Then the shouting started. It ripped through the walls, Mom's voice, a level of fury I'd never heard directed at me. My stomach clenched. My name, screamed, each syllable dripping with pure rage. I put my pencil down, my hands already shaking, and walked into the storm brewing inside our own home. There she was, Mom, her face crimson, eyes blazing. I actually recoiled. Madison stood just behind her, and in that split second, I caught it, a flicker of something in her eyes. Satisfaction. Triumph. Her eyes were red-rimmed, tears still fresh, but the way she watched me, it was calculated. Cold. You want to tell me what you did to your sister? Mom's voice was shaking. I was genuinely lost. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been doing homework all afternoon. Don't you dare lie to me. The sheer volume made me flinch. Madison told me everything. How could you do something so cruel to your own sister? Madison's shoulders shook with sobs that just sounded rehearsed. I can't believe you're denying it. After what you said to me After I what? My voice came out tiny. Madison, I haven't even seen you since we got home from school. What are you saying I did? Mom stepped closer. I could smell the wine on her breath. Oh, great. She'd been drinking. That explained the explosive reaction, but it also made everything so much more dangerous. When she drank, reason just fled. Emotion took over completely. She told me how you've been tormenting her for weeks. Mom jabbed her finger at my chest with each accusation. Stealing her things, spreading rumors at school, telling her she's worthless, that nobody in this family wants her around. And today, when she confronted you, you told her she should just disappear because everyone would be happier without her. The words hit me like physical blows. None of it was true. Not a single syllable. I never said anything remotely like that to Madison or anyone. If anything, I bent over backward for her, helping with homework, defending her from kids who made fun of her braces. Mom, that's not. I would never say those things. You know me. You know I wouldn't. I know you're standing here, lying to my face, while your sister is falling apart. Her hand flew up. For a horrifying second, I thought she was actually going to hit me. She'd never laid a hand on me before, but nothing about this moment felt familiar. Then, just as quickly, the rage in her eyes cooled to something far more chilling. Gab. The word was quiet, but it carried more weight than all her shouting combined. What? My voice was barely a whisper. Get out of my house. Each word landed like a separate verdict. I will not have someone who treats family like this under my roof. You want to be cruel? You want to destroy your sister's mental health? You can do it somewhere else. Outside, the storm was just escalating. Rain lashed against the windows, lightning flashing. It was almost 6 p.m., temperature dropping fast, and I had nowhere, absolutely nowhere to go. Mom, please, I choked out. It's pouring outside. Can we just talk about this? Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. Ruth crossed her arms, a solid, unyielding wall. Madison told me everything. And unlike you, she doesn't lie. You have 10 minutes to pack a bag and leave. If you're not gone by then, I'm calling the police and having you removed. I looked at Madison, silently, begging her to tell the truth, to stop this madness. She met my gaze for just a moment, and what I saw there, it chilled me to my core, more than the thought of the storm outside.
She wasn't going to say anything.
She'd orchestrated this entire nightmare, and she was going to let it play out exactly as she'd planned. My dad, Thomas, was away on a business trip, as usual. He wouldn't be home for 4 more days. I thought about calling him, but Mom had already turned her back, dismissing me completely. I stumbled through my room in a daze, throwing clothes into my school backpack with shaking hands. Phone, charger, toothbrush, the $80 I'd saved from babysitting. I grabbed my jacket, knowing it wouldn't be nearly enough. Madison appeared in my doorway as I zipped up the bag. "Maybe this will teach you to be nicer," she said softly, just loud enough for me to hear. The tears were gone now. Her face was calm, almost serene. "Why?" The question came out broken. "Why are you doing this?" She shrugged, leaning against the doorframe. "You've always been the favorite. Perfect grades, perfect daughter. Everyone always talking about how wonderful you are. Maybe now Mom will see you're not as great as everyone thinks." Before I could even respond, Mom's voice echoed from downstairs. "Time's up." I walked past Madison, down the stairs, and straight for the front door. My mother stood in the living room archway, arms still crossed, watching to make sure I actually left. The disappointment, the sheer disgust in her eyes, that hurt worse than anything else she'd said or done. "I love you, Mom." I tried. One last, desperate plea. "Please don't do this."
Out. Now.
I opened the door, and the wind immediately whipped rain into my face. I stepped onto the porch, heard the door slam behind me, then the definitive click of the lock. Standing there, in the absolute deluge, my backpack already soaking through, I never felt more abandoned in my entire life. The walk to the bus stop felt like an eternity, 15 minutes stretching into hours. My sneakers were waterlogged after the first block, squishing with every step. The flimsy jacket did nothing. Water streamed down my face, mixing with tears I couldn't hold back anymore. I had no plan, no destination. My best friend, Tessa, lived 3 miles away, but I couldn't just show up on her doorstep like this. And how in the world would I even begin to explain? My grandmother was in Florida, my aunt in California. Everyone I could think of would ask questions I had no answers for.
The bus.
Shelter offered minimal protection. I sat on the metal bench, knees to my chest, trying to think. My phone showed 6:47 p.m. I pulled up Dad's contact, my fingers hovering over the call button. He was in meetings all evening, he'd said. But surely this qualified as an emergency, right? Before I could decide, my phone buzzed. An incoming text. My mother's name appeared, and for a wild, hopeful moment, I thought maybe she'd realized her mistake. That she was calling me home. That this nightmare was over. The message made my blood run cold. OMG, that was perfect. Did you see her face? I've never seen anyone look so pathetic. She actually thought I was going to let her explain. Face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy. My hands went numb. This wasn't meant for me. This was clearly for Madison. Mom must have sent it to me by mistake, probably because our names were next to each other in her contacts. A second message followed immediately. Delete this. Wrong person. Then a third. Don't you dare tell your father about this. I just stared at the screen, rain still pouring around me. The full scope of what had happened crystallized into painful clarity. This wasn't just Madison's lie. My mother had been in on it. They'd planned this. The false accusations, the theatrical outrage, kicking me out into a storm, it had all been orchestrated specifically to hurt me. My phone rang. Ruth's name flashed across the screen. I didn't answer. She called again. And again. 6 times in rapid succession, each one going to voicemail. Then the text started flooding in. Answer your phone right now. This isn't funny. Call me back. You're overreacting. It was just a joke. Fine, be dramatic. You can come home when you're done being ridiculous. I powered off my phone. I just sat there in the darkening bus shelter, watching headlights blur through the rain-streaked plastic walls. Something fundamental had broken inside me. Not my heart, that would have been cleaner, simpler. This was deeper. A severing of trust so complete that I could physically feel where my family used to exist inside my chest, and found only a hollow space. A city bus pulled up, and the driver, an older woman named Carol, looked at me with concern. You getting on, honey? You're soaked through. I didn't know where the bus was going, but I climbed aboard, paying with wet dollar bills. Carol frowned. You okay? You need me to call someone? I'm fine, I lied. Just meeting my dad at the next stop. She didn't look convinced, but she nodded. I found a seat at the back, trying to process. The messages replayed in my mind, each word a fresh wound. It was just a joke. They'd throw me out into a storm as a joke. I rode the bus to the end of the line. Carol approached me. Sweetheart, I don't know what's going on, but I've been driving this route for 18 years, and I know what a kid in trouble looks like. She handed me a card. That's the Youth Crisis Hotline. They can help you. Please call them. I mumbled a thank you and stepped back into the rain. The storm hadn't let up. If anything, it seemed angrier now. I walked without direction. Muscle memory carrying me through neighborhoods I'd known my whole life, but now they felt alien, hostile. Everything familiar had become untrustworthy. Eventually, I found myself at the animal shelter where I volunteered. It was dark, locked, but the covered entrance offered some relief. I sat against the wall, backpack beside me, and finally allowed myself to fall apart. The tears came hard and silent, my body shaking with sobs I couldn't control. 15 years old, thrown away like garbage because my sister wanted attention and my mother thought it was funny. Hours blurred into a cold, miserable mess. At some point, I must have fallen into an exhausted half-sleep because I jolted awake to footsteps. My heart hammered with fear until I recognized him, Mr. Peterson, the night security guard. Caitlin, what in the world are you doing here? His kind face creased with worry. Child, you're frozen. Come inside right now. He unlocked the door, ushered me into the lobby, and immediately wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. The warmth was almost painful against my chilled skin. I'm going to make you some tea, and then you're going to tell me what's happened, Mr. Peterson said, firm but gentle. And don't even think about telling me you're fine, because I have 3 daughters of my own, and I know that look. The whole story spilled out as I sat in his office, hands wrapped around a mug of hot tea that I couldn't stop shaking enough to drink. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with every detail. Do you have the messages still? He asked. The ones your mother sent by accident? I'd turned my phone off hours ago, but when I powered it back on, I had 47 missed calls and over 100 text messages. Most were from Ruth, going from angry to threatening to almost panicked. A few from Madison, telling me I was being immature. None were apologies, but the original messages were still there.
Clear. Damning.
I need you to do something for me, Mr. Peterson said, his voice serious. I need you to let me call your father right now. What your mother did isn't just cruel, it's illegal. You're a minor, and she can't just throw you out of your house. Storm or not, joke or not. He's in California for work. He can't. Then he needs to know what's happening in his house while he's gone. Mr. Peterson was already reaching for his office phone. What's his number? My father answered on the second ring, his voice groggy. It was after 2 a.m. in California. Hello, Mr. Brennan? This is Walter Peterson. I'm the night security guard at the Riverside Animal Shelter where your daughter, Caitlin, volunteers. I have her here with me, and there's a situation you need to be aware of immediately. I could hear Dad's voice shift from sleepy confusion to sharp, alert concern. Caitlin? What's wrong? Is she hurt? Mr. Peterson handed me the phone. You tell him. He needs to hear it from you. My voice broke on the first word, and then everything just poured out. Madison's lies, Ruth's rage, being thrown out into the storm. The text messages that revealed the whole thing had been planned. My father's breathing grew heavy with each sentence. "I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to tell me the absolute truth," he said when I finished. His voice was steady, but I could hear the fury beneath it. "Did you say or do any of the things Madison accused you of?"
No, Dad.
"None of it. I swear." "I believe you." The certainty in his voice made tears spring to my eyes again. "I'm getting on the next available flight. I'll be home by morning. In the meantime, I'm calling your Aunt Patricia. She lives 20 minutes from the shelter. She's going to come get you, and you're staying with her until I arrive. Do not go home. Do not respond to any messages from your mother or sister. Do you understand?" "Yes." He talked to Mr. Peterson again, making arrangements for my immediate safety with a complete stranger. When Mr. Peterson hung up, he gave me a small smile. "Your dad sounds like a good man. He's scared for you, but he's handling it. Your aunt is on her way." Aunt Patricia arrived in 22 minutes, still in her pajamas with a raincoat thrown over them. She took one look at me and pulled me into a fierce hug, the first time I'd felt truly safe in hours.
Oh, sweetheart.
"Oh, my dear girl." What Ruth did. She pulled back, hands on my shoulders, her eyes blazing. "You're safe now. You're coming home with me, and nobody is going to hurt you again." Her house was warm, quiet. She showed me to the guest room, gave me dry clothes that were too big but wonderfully soft, and sat with me while I tried to eat the soup she'd heated up. I couldn't manage more than a few bites. "Try to get some rest," she said, tucking blankets around me like I was a small child. "Your father will be here soon. Then we'll figure out what happens next." I slept fitfully, nightmares mixing with memory. When I woke, gray morning light filtered through unfamiliar curtains. Voices drifted from downstairs, my father's deep rumble, Patricia's softer responses. I found them in the kitchen. My father looked like he'd aged 5 years overnight, his eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. When he saw me, he crossed the room in 3 strides and wrapped me in his arms. "I'm so sorry," he whispered into my hair. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there, that I didn't see what was happening, that you went through that alone." We sat at Patricia's kitchen table, and I showed him the text messages. I watched his jaw tighten as he read the casual cruelty in those laughing emojis. "This ends now," he said quietly. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. What your mother did constitutes child endangerment and neglect. Those text messages prove premeditation, which makes it worse." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means we're documenting everything. It means I'm filing for emergency custody of you. It means your mother is going to face consequences for what she's done." He looked at me, his expression both gentle and determined. "And it means you get to decide how much contact you want with her and Madison going forward. If the answer is none, I will support that completely." We drove to the house later that morning. Dad had called ahead, informing Ruth he was coming to collect my belongings and that I wouldn't be staying there anymore. She tried to argue, claiming I was overdramatic about a harmless prank, but he'd cut her off. "We'll discuss the legality of your harmless prank with a lawyer I've retained," he told her, then hung up. Ruth and Madison were both in the living room when we arrived. My mother's face was splotchy from crying, her hair uncombed. Madison sat on the couch, arms crossed, wearing an expression that suggested she was the wronged party. "Thomas, thank goodness." Ruth started toward him. "Maybe you can talk some sense into your daughter. She's completely overreacted to a joke and now she's stopped talking." My father's voice was ice. "Stop.
Right now.
Before you say something else that my lawyer will be very interested to hear." Ruth's mouth snapped shut. She looked between us, seeming to realize for the first time that this wasn't going to be smoothed over with excuses. "Caitlin is going to pack her things, and then we're leaving," Dad continued. "You and I will communicate through attorneys from this point forward regarding custody arrangements and the legal consequences of your actions." "Legal consequences?" Ruth's voice pitched higher. "It was a joke. We were going to let her back in after an hour. Let her see that we pranked her. She wasn't supposed to run off and make this huge, dramatic thing." You threw a 15-year-old child out of her home during a severe thunderstorm based on fabricated accusations, then sent text messages laughing about her distress. My father's control was impressive. His fury was contained, but clearly visible. That's not a prank. That's child abuse. And those text messages are evidence of premeditation. I'd never seen my mother look so pale. You can't be serious. You're going to involve lawyers over this. You involved the police in your threats to call them if Caitlin didn't leave fast enough, he countered. You made this legal the moment you did that. I left them arguing and went to my room. Looking around the space I'd occupied for 15 years, I felt nothing but an overwhelming urge to leave. I packed methodically. Clothes, books, photographs of just me and Dad, my laptop, my grandmother's jewelry box. Everything that truly mattered fit into 2 suitcases and a few boxes. As I folded clothes, my hands found a sweater Ruth had given me. She'd made such a show of picking it out. I held it for a moment, then dropped it on the floor. She could keep her gifts. The walls were covered with ribbons from track meets, honor roll certificates, volunteer awards. Evidence of a life I'd worked hard to build. None of it had mattered when Madison decided she wanted to tear me down. I pulled down the photos that only included me and my father, leaving the family pictures. Those belonged to a version of us that didn't exist anymore. My phone buzzed constantly. Classmates, people I barely knew, small towns, and gossip. I turned off notifications. The jewelry box held more than accessories. Inside was a locket my grandmother had given me on my 13th birthday. For my serious granddaughter, she'd said. The one who thinks before she speaks and loves without conditions. Ruth had rolled her eyes then, calling it favoritism. Maybe Grandma had seen something I was too young to recognize. I found my old journals, spiral notebooks filled with years of thoughts. Part of me wanted to leave them, erase that history. But these were mine. Proof I'd existed as myself before everything fell apart. The door creaked open. I tensed, expecting Madison. Instead, my father stepped in. His presence filled the doorway, solid and reassuring in a way I desperately needed. How are you holding up? He asked quietly. I don't know yet, I admitted. Part of me still can't believe this is actually happening. He moved into the room, picking up a box. I should have seen this coming. The way your mother always made excuses for Madison's behavior. The way she dismissed your accomplishments. I told myself I was imagining the favoritism. You travel a lot for work. You weren't here to see all of it. That's not an excuse. His voice carried a guilt I didn't want him to feel. I'm your father. I should have paid better attention. I should have questioned why you always seemed separate from them, like you were being careful all the time. He was right. I had been careful. Walking on eggshells I hadn't fully acknowledged. Always making sure my successes didn't overshadow Madison's struggles. Downplaying achievements so Ruth wouldn't make comments about natural talent. Apologizing for things I hadn't done. Just to keep peace. What happens now? With the custody stuff? I asked. The lawyer specializes in family law. She's filing emergency custody papers Monday morning, citing child endangerment. Those text messages are smoking gun evidence. No judge is going to look at a parent laughing about throwing their kid out in a storm and think that's acceptable behavior. Will I have to see them for court? There will be a hearing, yes. You'll need to tell your story to the judge, but I'll be there with you every second. So will our lawyer. He sat down the box and looked at me. Caitlin, I need you to understand something. What happened wasn't your fault. Not any part of it. Madison lied because she wanted to hurt you, and your mother participated because... He struggled for words. I honestly don't know why she did what she did, but none of it reflects on you. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Do you want to take your desk? He asked, trying to give me a moment to compose myself. It won't fit in my car today, but I can rent a truck for furniture if you want it. I looked at the desk where I'd spent countless hours studying, writing, dreaming. Futures that seemed possible when I was alone in this room. No, I said. I don't want any of it. Just what fits in these bags and boxes. We worked in silence. Dad moved with steady efficiency, but I caught him pausing, his expression darkening, as if remembering new details of Ruth's cruelty. She called me 17 times last night, he said eventually. After you talked to me and I said I was getting on a plane. She started with anger. How dare I make this a big deal? How I was undermining her parenting, how you'd always been overdramatic. Then came bargaining. She promised it would never happen again, swore she'd go to therapy, begged me not to involve lawyers. What did you say? I told her she should have thought about consequences before she threw our daughter away like garbage. His hands tightened. Then I hung up and bought a plane ticket. I've never been so angry in my entire life, Caitlin. The things I wanted to say to her.
He shook his head.
The lawyer advised me not to communicate with her directly anymore. Everything goes through attorneys now. Is that why she looked so scared when we got here? She received the preliminary custody filing this morning, hand-delivered by a process server at 7 a.m. She knows this isn't going away, that she can't charm or manipulate her way out of legal consequences. He managed a grim smile. Your mother has always been very good at making people believe her version of events. But judges care about facts, and the facts are damning. We carried the first load of boxes downstairs. Ruth was nowhere to be seen, but I could hear her crying in the kitchen, theatrical and loud. Madison sat exactly where we'd left her, scrolling through her phone with studied indifference. Dad's really doing this? She asked without looking up. Taking you away over something so stupid? My father's voice was colder than I'd ever heard it. Madison, I strongly suggest you stop talking. Anything you say right now will make this situation worse for you and your mother. She finally looked up, and something in his expression made her flinch. I was just trying to. I know exactly what you were trying to do. You wanted attention. You wanted to hurt your sister, and you didn't care about the consequences. Congratulations. You got what you wanted. He gestured toward the kitchen. You have your mother all to yourself now. I hope you enjoy it. We made 3 more trips. On the final one, Ruth emerged from the kitchen, mascara running down her face. Please don't do this, she whispered. Thomas, I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. But she's my daughter. You can't just take her from me. My father's laugh was harsh, humorless. I'm not taking her from you. You threw her away. I'm just giving her a home where she's wanted and safe. It was supposed to be funny. We were going to surprise her. Let her see. We decorated her room. That it was all just a prank to teach her. Ruth's voice broke. She wasn't supposed to disappear for hours. She wasn't supposed to involve strangers and make this into some huge legal thing. Teach what exactly? I heard myself ask. Both of them turned to look at me. What lesson was I supposed to learn from being thrown out in the storm? Ruth's mouth opened and closed. You've been distant lately, spending all your time on schoolwork and that shelter. I wanted you to appreciate your family more, to see that you needed us. So, you and Madison conspired to terrorize me? My voice was steady now, detached. Then you laughed about how pathetic I looked when you succeeded? And you genuinely thought that would make me appreciate you more? You're twisting everything. It wasn't like that. Ruth's face crumpled. I was drunk. I didn't mean those things the way they sounded. Mom, stop. The word felt wrong in my mouth now. Too intimate for what she'd become. Stop making excuses. Stop trying to rewrite what happened. You did this. You chose this. And now you get to live with the consequences. My father put his hand on my shoulder. We're done here. Caitlin, get in the car. As we pulled out of the driveway, I saw Ruth standing on the porch, still crying, still playing the victim in a tragedy of her own creation. Madison had joined her, arms crossed, watching us leave with an expression I couldn't quite read. I didn't feel triumphant or vindicated. I felt tired, hollowed out, like something essential had been carved away, and I was still figuring out what remained. Madison appeared in my doorway as I was finishing packing. This is all your fault, she said. If you just came back and played along, everything would be fine. But you had to be difficult about it. I looked at my little sister, this person I'd spent my whole life trying to protect and support, and felt absolutely nothing. Why did you do it? Really? She shrugged. I wanted to see if I could. I wanted to see if Mom would choose me over you. And she did. I hope that was worth it, I said quietly. I hope having Mom all to yourself makes you happy, because you've lost me permanently. Her face flickered with something, maybe regret, maybe just annoyance. You're being so dramatic. I'm being realistic. You and Mom showed me exactly who you are and what I mean to you. I'm done pretending we're a family. I carried my bags downstairs. My father was by the door, having clearly won whatever argument had been happening. Ready? He asked gently. I nodded. We loaded everything into his car. Ruth stood in the doorway, crying, trying one last time to convince him he was overreacting. Please don't do this, she begged. She's my daughter. You can't just take her away from me. You threw her away, my father said flatly. I'm just making it official. We drove away. I didn't look back. The next months brought changes I couldn't have imagined that stormy night. Living with my father in his downtown apartment felt strange at first. He'd converted his home office into a bedroom for me, apologizing for how bare it was. We'll get you whatever you need, he'd said. Furniture, decorations, whatever makes this feel like home.
But I found I didn't want much.
The simplicity was refreshing after the chaos of Ruth's house, where every surface had been covered with decorative objects and family photos that now felt like lies. I hung my honor roll certificates, put my books on the shelf he'd installed, and called it done. School became complicated. News of what happened spread like wildfire. Some versions had me running away over a minor disagreement. Others claimed I'd been abused for years. A few suggested I'd fabricated everything. My best friend Tessa cornered me. Why didn't you call me? I would have come to get you. You didn't have to sit in a bus shelter all night. I wasn't thinking clearly, I admitted. I just needed to get away from there. She hugged me fiercely. Your mom is insane. Everyone's talking about what she did. The text messages are everywhere. My stomach dropped. What do you mean, everywhere? Someone leaked them online. They're all over social media. Everyone's seen them. I pulled out my phone. Sure enough, screenshots of her messages had been shared hundreds of times, accompanied by outraged comments about child abuse. Someone had even created a hashtag. The story went viral locally. Ruth must have been mortified. Her entire social circle would have seen the evidence of what she'd done, read her cruel laughter in her own words. Part of me felt vindicated. A larger part felt sick that this private nightmare had become public entertainment. I didn't share them, I told Tessa. I don't know who did. Does it matter? She deserves it. What she did to you was evil. The attention was overwhelming. Teachers looked at me with pity. Students I barely knew stopped me to offer support or ask intrusive questions. I started eating lunch in the library. My grades, always excellent, became my refuge. Homework was something I could control. Problems with clear solutions. I threw myself into studying with an intensity that worried my father. You're allowed to just exist for a while, he told me gently one evening, finding me at the kitchen table surrounded by textbooks at midnight. You don't have to be perfect right now. I don't know how to just exist, I said, my voice cracking. Every time I stop working, I start thinking about what happened. I can't. I need to stay busy. He sat down, pushing my calculus book aside. We need to talk about therapy. Dr. Harrison comes highly recommended. She specializes in family trauma, and I think talking to her might help. I'm fine. You're not sleeping. You're having panic attacks when it rains. You flinch every time your phone buzzes because you think it might be your mother trying to contact you again. His eyes were kind, but firm. You're surviving, which is incredible. But you deserve more than just survival. I started seeing Dr. Harrison twice a week. The first few sessions, I barely spoke. She didn't push, just sat with me, occasionally asking gentle questions. You're carrying a lot of guilt, she observed during our fourth meeting. Guilt that doesn't belong to you. I keep thinking about what I could have done differently. If I'd just gone to Madison when I got home, talked to her before she had a chance to make up those lies. If I'd been a better sister, maybe she wouldn't have wanted to hurt me. Do you genuinely believe you deserved what happened to you? The question stopped me cold. No, but I should have seen it coming. Should have recognized that Madison resented me, that my mother favored her. I was naive. You were 15 years old, trusting that your family loved you. That's not naive. That's normal. Dr. Harrison leaned forward. What your mother and sister did wasn't a failure on your part. It was a choice they made. A cruel, calculated choice. You can acknowledge your feelings about wishing things were different without accepting blame for their actions. The conversations helped slowly. She gave me tools for managing the anxiety that spiked whenever I saw someone who looked like Ruth in public or heard Madison's name mentioned. We worked on rebuilding my ability to trust people, to believe that not everyone would betray me the way my family had. Meanwhile, my father filed for divorce, citing the incident as proof of Ruth's unfitness as a parent. The text messages became central evidence, impossible for her to explain away. Her lawyer tried to claim they'd been taken out of context, but there was no context that made laughing about throwing your child into a storm acceptable. I testified in the custody hearing, describing everything. The judge's expression grew increasingly severe as I showed him the messages, explained Madison's lies, detailed the hours I'd spent alone in the rain. Mrs. Brennan, the judge said, I've presided over many difficult cases, but I have rarely seen such calculated cruelty toward a child. Your actions weren't just negligent. They were deliberately harmful. The court finds your explanation of this being a prank to be neither credible nor relevant. Even if we accepted that characterization, subjecting a minor to this treatment would still constitute abuse. He awarded my father full custody. Ruth got supervised visitation, which I declined. Madison, now facing consequences, tried to apologize through a letter. I returned it unread. My mother's friends and family split into camps. Some believed her version. Others, especially after seeing the text messages, cut ties with her entirely. My grandmother stopped speaking to her for 6 months. Patricia became a steady presence, the maternal figure I needed. She helped me find a therapist, supported me through the nightmares, celebrated my college acceptance 3 years later. The storm that night had been terrifying, but the real damage had come from the people who were supposed to love me most, weaponizing that fear for their own amusement. It took years to trust people again, to believe someone truly meant it when they claimed to care. I'm 29 now, working as a veterinarian. Those Saturday volunteer hours at the shelter became a career. I've built a life surrounded by people who value honesty and kindness. I'm married to someone who thinks the idea of treating family as a joke is incomprehensible. Ruth has tried to reconnect multiple times over the years. Cards, emails, messages claiming she's changed. I don't respond. Madison reached out when she got engaged, wanting me at her wedding. Unable to understand why I wouldn't celebrate with her. I sent back a one-line message. You made your choice that night. I'm making mine now. My father and Patricia walk my dogs with me every Sunday. We have dinner together once a week. We celebrate holidays as a family that chose each other, not just shared DNA. And sometimes on rainy nights, when thunder rolls across the sky, I stand at my window and remember the girl who walked out into that storm with nothing but a backpack and $80.
She survived.
She built something better than what she lost. Have you ever been blindsided by a betrayal you never saw coming? Or had to make an impossible choice to protect your own peace? I'd really love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. What would you have done in my situation?